Hey guys, it's Katherine here. Today I'm going to be taking you through 5 ways that you can use less energy in your home. So you might be wondering, why is it important for us to use less energy at home? Well, first things first, if we use less energy, we will also be decreasing our carbon emissions. This is really important for the environment because it's gas emissions like those of carbon which are causing climate change. Also, we need to reduce the amount of energy we use at home because currently we are depleting our oil, gas, and coal resources at an alarmingly fast rate. And if we want to keep up a sustainable way of living, we need to start reducing our dependency on these resources. So let's get started. Here is tip number 1. Tip number 1, change your laundry habits. Did you know that if we adopted smarter laundry strategies, the amount of carbon emissions that we would reduce would be equivalent to removing 12% of all of the passenger cars in the United States? So needless to say, changing your laundry habits and making them more energy efficient would be incredibly beneficial for the environment. So how can you do that? Well, luckily there's a lot of really simple ways that you can reduce the amount of energy you use when you do laundry. To begin, you can start doing laundry less often. It's a common myth that you need to wash your clothes after each time that you wear them. This is actually not true. Unless they have a stain or they're super sweaty, you don't actually have to wash them until you've worn them a few times. So one way to save energy from laundry is to actually do it less. When it does come time to wash your clothes, make sure that when you put on the washing machine, you're doing it with a full load. It's a complete waste of energy to run the washing machine with only a few items in there. Also, make sure you're running your washing machine on the cold cycle. Did you know that if everyone started using cold water only for their laundry, we would actually save 34 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions? One last thing. Stop using your dryer. You don't need it. Your clothes will dry just the same if you hang them up on a drying rack or outside on a clothesline. You'll save an immense amount of energy, and your clothes will last longer, which means they'll also take longer to end up as garbage in a landfill. So it's wins all around. Seriously guys, stop using your dryer. Okay, let's move on to tip number 2. Tip number 2, manage your electronics. Did you know that the average Canadian household has more than 25 electronic devices? These small devices like laptops, cell phones, speakers, don't take up a lot of energy on their own, but when combined, they constitute a pretty significant drain on energy resources. These devices take up energy even when they're not on. If they're simply sitting there but still plugged in, they can take up power in what's called phantom power. This is a very significant drain on your energy resources. Actually, up to 10% of the energy you use in your house comes from phantom power. So the main thing that you can do is unplug your devices when you're not charging them and when you're not using them. This will save you a lot of energy. Okay, it's time to move on to tip number 3. Tip number 3, turn off the lights. This one might seem a little bit obvious, but it's still really important. Did you know that lighting actually accounts for 12% of your home electricity use? Yeah, so it's a pretty significant drainer on your power. Luckily, it's really easy to use less energy from your lighting. For example, take advantage of natural light. Open up a window, sit nearer to a window, instead of turning on the lights. You should also strive to use smaller light sources when possible. So instead of turning on a big light, use smaller light fixtures like a desk light or an over-the-counter light. Also, when you're not in a room or when you're not at home, it's imperative that the lights are off. There's absolutely no reason for them to be on. Now let's move on to tip number 4. Tip number 4, Be smart in the kitchen. So the kitchen is where you find a lot of large appliances which drain a lot of electricity. For example, ovens, microwaves, stovetops, fridges, dishwashers. All of these appliances are really, really big users of electricity. However, luckily for you, there are some really easy changes that you can make to your cooking habits which will significantly decrease the amount of energy that you're using. Today we're going to focus on one, and this is the oven. When you're using the oven, there's a few really simple changes you can make to help the environment. So the first one is to not open the oven door when you're in the middle of cooking something. When you open the door, up to 20% of the heat escapes, and that means when you close it again, the oven has to work even harder to get it back up to the temperature that you want, so it's using a lot more energy. Also, you can turn off the oven a few minutes before the cooking time ends. The temperature in the oven won't decrease, and you'll be saving energy. Lastly, when possible, you want to use the microwave instead of the oven. The microwave is a lot more energy efficient. Actually, what an oven accomplishes in 1 hour, a microwave can accomplish in 15 minutes. Alright, we have arrived at our final tip for this video. Here is tip number 5. Tip number 5. Pay attention to your heating and cooling. In most homes, heating makes up 50% of the electricity bill. So that makes it the single largest use of energy in your home. In the winter, obviously, heating costs are significantly higher. Actually, your energy usage increases about 66% in the winter when the heat is on. So if you can find some ways to lower your thermostat a little bit and not rely quite as much on heating, you'd be doing wonders for the environment. But how can you do that? The first thing you can do is to lower the temperature in your house when you're not home, and also when you're sleeping, because you don't need the house to be as warm when you're asleep. Another thing you can do is to dress for the weather, and this applies in the summer as well as the winter. So I'm not saying you need to start wearing your winter coat inside, but if you're able to wear shorts and a tank top at home in the winter, it might be a little bit too warm. Similarly, if in the summer your air conditioning is so cold that you're wearing a hoodie and sweatpants, it could be a little too cool. So be mindful of that when you're setting your temperature. So that concludes this video on 5 ways to use less energy in your home. Thank you so much for watching and learning with me today, and I hope that you'll try out a few of these tips. Bye!